Hello everybody, it's a vertical sandwich. Welcome back to book reviews, or book overviews, or book review overviews. So this is a thing I've been wanting to do for a while. I just want to talk about, because we read, 60, 70 years worth of Hugo Award winners, and I said that I kind of wanted to talk about a top 10. I said at the time, I think I said this while I was doing the Three Body Problem trilogy, that I wanted to do like a top 10 and a bottom 5. And I've actually changed that. What I decided I was going to do was I limited myself to 5 each, best and worst, and gave myself an honorable mention. But before we get into the best Hugo Award winners, should we do the worst first? Let's do the worst first. I have a list. I have a list of both. Let's just talk about what I'm doing right now as far as books go. So right now I'm reading Creatures of Light and Darkness by Zelazny. I have that going on. I'm also reading 1Q84 by Murakami, which is a trilogy. So we're probably not going to hear about that for a while, because I don't think I'm going to review the first book of a trilogy before reading the next two. And then I'm also reading Feet of Clay, whichever Discworld novel that is. I just finished Masquerade. So, so that's where we're at with that. We have some other stuff on the back burner. And there are other books that I could be reviewing right now. There are a lot of Panchins, Rite of Passage, or Girl in Landscape are sitting there. The Mountain God's Eye is out there somewhere. There's tons of Discworld books I've read. There's an entire series of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books. All just sitting in a box waiting for me to pull them out and go, oh, do you want to hear about, what was that one book? Like Babel 17? Do you want to hear about Babel 17? Or the other, from the guy who did The Demolished Man. He did, that one about the Star Traveler guy. I don't even remember. I don't remember what it's called. But it's like a hugely landmark book, and we could review it. That was things I've read sitting out there. There's also other Vonnegut novels I would love to talk about and things like that. But I said I was going to do this, and I really think that this is actually a good idea, because people could just come to this video and go, oh, what Hugo Award winners should I avoid at all costs? It's not a bad thing to... Or, I don't want to read all the Hugo Award winners. What ones should I definitely read? What ones shouldn't I skip whatsoever? So I'm going to try to do that, and then that, in those orders. So, the 5 worst, right? So, let's see, do I have these in an order by the year? Okay, well, let's just go by year. So, this was not hard, actually. There are only about 7 or 8 books that you could put on a bottom 5 list. So, most Hugo Award winners are good books, right? They're good, wonderfully readable books. 1958's The Big Time by Fritz Lieber. I can't describe. I mean, there's just none of the characters were likable, and none of the characters had any depth. Like, it starts with an amazing premise, and then just kind of just goes away. It just goes away and deals with abusive boyfriends and weird, and like a nuclear bomb that's going to go off or something. And so, which, by the way, in the bad book list, I'm not gonna dance around spoilers. I do not care if I spoil the plot for you. If I spoil the plot for you and you're like, now I can never read that book, you're welcome. You're welcome. And it's really like there's no way out of the situation, and then suddenly it turns out that like a bunch of information was never given to you. So like this person has like backgrounds you would never think of, and they managed to defuse this bomb, and everything ends up like happily ever after. And it's just garbage. It's just the kind of garbage where you just go like, oh, there really wasn't ever anything at stake. Like, good. Those kind of stories, I know it was a big thing in magazine science fiction to be like these kind of twist endings. But here's the thing, is if you don't give the people information for them to put it together themselves and then fool them, then this is just the equivalent. It is the 1950s equivalent of a troll. Like, Fritz Lieber just kind of rickrolls you. Like, that's how it goes. I know that's even dated internet culture. But yeah, it's just, you feel cheated. as an audience member, and it hurts that you really didn't like any of the characters, and you didn't, you couldn't, you couldn't root for any of them. You didn't really care if the bomb had gone off at the end of the big time, and everybody had died in their little time outside of time, like hotel or whatever it is. Meh, meh, meh. It wouldn't have been a huge deal. Like, I wouldn't have cared. I wouldn't have cared. So yeah, so I really didn't like it. I mean, I know my review makes it very clear that I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I also did not look back up the pronunciation of Vernor Vinge. So hopefully I get his name right. All right. 1964 Waystation by Clifford Dc Mac. Here's the thing about that. This is another novel that starts with a brilliant premise. Just an amazing premise. Like, there's some guy, he lives in Wisconsin, like, he doesn't age, he is a veteran of the Civil War, and, like, nobody knows. So some guy finally kind of gets clued in to the fact that this guy has been alive for over 100 years and still looks like he's in his, like, 20s. And then it turns out that the guy lives inside, like, a rest stop for aliens. But here's the thing, is that amazing premise then just turns into every magazine science fiction story you'll ever read, where there's some missing artifact and the fate of the universe is, whether or not this thing can be, and then it just turns out that this person that we don't even know has these mystical powers that allow for the universe to blah, 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 blah. It's a real shame. It's a real shame. Because you start this novel, and you're in it. You're in it. You're just like, this is going to be great. Like 1964, like, produced this novel, and it's so close. It's so close to being just an amazing novel. And then it just kind of just goes to kind of these pat, like, surprise plot points. And, like, here's the thing, is, again, I don't mind. Like, I don't mind plot twists. I don't mind that at all. I think they're great. I think they're amazing. But they feel a million times better if they can be, if when a plot twist happens, you go back and go, all the signs were there. All of them were there. Wow, I never would have in a million years. That's a million times better than just, oh, we introduced a character and they just happen to be the exact thing we need at this very moment. It's just this weird magical thinking garbage. And it is not good. It is just not at all. Not even a little. Like, didn't like it. Think it should be avoided. Now, here's the thing, is, so after those two novels, boom, 50s and 60s, there's a huge gap. Like, there's just a lot of good stuff on that list. I know how I ranted about how good the 60s list is. It's good. It's really good. Okay. So, then 1982's Downbelow Station. I know this is my go-to horrible book. I know it is. And actually, it was funny because somebody came into the review and said, this is a great book and you're an idiot. And then deleted their comment. And I was like, I would have liked to have debated that point. Like, here's the thing about Downbelow Station. It's not a great book. It's not. It is not. It is not. It is just tired tropes and badly written aliens and badly written characters. It is just, it's just, and here's the thing, it's by C.J. Cherryh, and I loved her other Hugo Award winner, which I cannot thank, Citing. I loved Citing. I don't mind their writing style, I don't mind their characterizations of people. I think that was done beautifully in Citing. That's the problem, I think. Downbelow Station might have passed by my notice. It would have been a meh book, but because C.J. Cherryh is capable of citing, which is just like a character delight. Like, it's just all psychological and just all about how people would feel about science fiction, doing things like forcing you to treat an identical clone of your sexual accuser or sexual assaulter as like as a child, having to deal with the child version of somebody who victimized you. I think that's an amazing premise. She pulls it off beautifully. And then you go to Downbelow Station, and you're like, where's the amazing premise here? And the answer is, there isn't. There isn't. It's just about a space station. It's space station, Downbelow Station. That's the thing. That's the thing. There's stuff that happens. Like, there's airlocks and refugees and people, and like people working behind the scenes and murders for political power, things like that. But yawn. It's just yawn. I just didn't care about any of the characters. So again, it was just the kind of thing like the big time where I just kind of went, I don't care. Downbelow Station can go into a descending orbit and burn up in the atmosphere. I don't care. I wouldn't have cared one bit. Didn't like any of those characters. Any of them. Any of them at all. Didn't. Couldn't care less. It would be impossible for me to care less about that book and the characters in it. So, there's that. Alright. So, where are we at now? We got two more. I got two more. A Deepness in the Sky by Vernor Vinge. Now, Vernor Vinge has several Hugo Award winners that I loved. Fire Upon the Deep, I think, is one. It's like Children of the Sky is the sequel to that. And we haven't reviewed it, but I have read it, and it's okay. And Rainbow's End, which is amazing. Rainbow's End is just a great novel. It's just fantastic. It's just so good. Rainbow's End is so good. Deepness in the Sky, everybody should know that my problem with Deepness in the Sky is that it takes sexual and psychological violence to an extreme that I think is devastatingly unnecessary. That's just it. That's just it. I just think that, like, there's a character in. So I said I wasn't going to care about spoilers, and I don't. So I'm gonna tell you exactly what my problem with that novel is. There is a character that you grow to really care about in the novel, and then it turns out that the person, her boyfriend, raped and murdered her mother, and every time she discovers this fact, he just erases her memory. And then she has to discover it all over again. And, like, I'm just not... It happens in a way. There's a B story. Like, I guess it's the A story. The A story in the novel about the aliens is brilliant. It's classic... it's classic Vinge. It's classic. It's so good. But then the B story is so trash. It's so trash, and that stuff happens in a way where you just kind of go, what am I reading? Like, it just throws a wrecking ball through the entire pace of the novel. It stops you dead in your tracks, and then after that, you can never quite get the momentum back. Right? Like, you just kind of go, like, you can't stop going, like, I don't know why that happened. I'm not against the ideas of, like, the society that exists in the novel, kind of altering people's psychology to use them as, like, pleasure people or whatever. Like, that's a horrifying concept, and I don't mind it being, like, I don't mind it being hinted at. What I mind is you rubbing my face in how much a character is just being brutalized. Just brutalized. Not okay. I didn't like, and here's the thing is, I did not include on this list the wind-up girl, and she goes through way worse stuff. It's just, in this novel, it doesn't make sense. And you kind of have to ask, like, why? Like, why does, there is zero need for it. There is zero need. It reads like somebody came up with the worst possible concept for the way to abuse a female and went, oh, I gotta put that in some novel. And then wrote a good novel and went, like, gotta go in the middle and put that right in the middle. And you're just like, oh, I don't understand. And here's the thing, is actually, Children of the Sky suffers from a similar kind of issue. Like, where you see this kind of a horrible misogyny on display instead of what you actually want out of a book, which is, like, characters and plot and things like that. What you get is this, pages and pages of this woman being abused, and you just kind of go like, I don't know that you have to grind this into there, like, but it's a thing that happens. I didn't like it. I don't appreciate it. So that book will forever make bottom lists of, if anybody asks me what one book should I not read, that's the one where I would be like, just skip that one. Like, if I only had to choose one. And the reason is because the other ones are not so blatantly kind of insufferably, like, victimizing. They're just meh novels, really, you know? They're just novels that meh. M-E-H. Meh. Okay. So, 2005, Susanna, Clarke, Jonathan Strange, and Mr. Norrell. It's just too slow and too long. It's the longest Hugo Award winner. Or what? It may be, if it's not the longest, it's second. It can only possibly be passed by Blackout All Clear because that's actually 2 books. But it's so slow paced. It just feels like it takes so long to read that novel, and it's so not worth it. It's not great. It's a 400-page novel that somebody stretched out to 1,000 pages. And it hurts. It hurts to read it. It's so slow. It's so slow and it's so boring. And the payoff is not worth 1,000 pages. It's very clearly influenced by kind of the same literary movements that produced people like Neil Gaiman, with kind of these magical everyday worlds. And that's fine, except Neil Gaiman actually moves his plot forward in a very exciting manner, creates a bunch of characters that you care about, and keeps his books to 500 pages. Whereas Susanna Clarke did not do that. Did not at all. It's so slow. I cannot emphasize to you how slow and boring this novel is. It is super, man, you gotta ask, when you sit down with a novel and you flip to the end and you go, is this novel worth a 1,000-page read? The answer is almost always no, unless it's Stephen King's Uncut The Stand, which is completely worth a read. Possibly War and Peace if you're into super detailed Russian literature. But, those are the only novels I've ever approached at kind of that length, where I've just been like, oh yes, please. Aside from trilogies and series. But, yeah, it just can't support that kind of weight. It just doesn't have enough in it to get it that far. It needs to be a 400-page novel. If that novel had been cut to 400 pages, it wouldn't be on the top 10 list, or top 5 list. But it wouldn't be on the bottom 5 either. It's just, there's so much stuff you have to read through where you go, none of this is going anywhere. And it isn't. And that's I don't want my time wasted. I don't. I want to, every time I pick up a book, I want something to happen or move in a way where I go, well, at least that might be, we're building something. And you're just not in that book. It just, no. Nope. So those are my bottom 5. That's the bottom 5 novels from the Hugo Award winner list. And here's my honorable mention. Blue Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson. And the reason is this. Kim Stanley Robinson's Mars series is a masterwork in well-researched realistic fiction. However, that trilogy drags so much towards the end that you kind of just have to tune yourself out. And I would never suggest the Mars trilogy to anybody. The first book is fine. It's a good book. The first book is ironically the only one that did win a Hugo Award winner or a Hugo Award. The first book is fine. It's intriguing. It starts with a murder. You're like, wow, a murder. Let's go. A murder on Mars. And then, it's all about, failed revolutions, and, again, it's hyper-realistic. That covers, 200 years, and it gets me that in the third book, he's still describing how rock formations on Mars, a bug just flew into my eye. He's still describing rock formations on Mars, and how they happened, millions of years ago. And you're like, seriously, I've read 800 pages worth of characters and rock formations of Mars. I'm done with rock formations of Mars. Give me a plot and characters that move. And man, I mean, there exciting bits in the Mars trilogy. There are. Bringing down the space elevator is amazing. It is so good. But like, does that stuff kind of, by the third novel, you're kind of done. It's kind of over. You kind of, I mean, you just kind of go like, yeah, okay. I mean, it's fine. It's okay. But again, the pacing, it just seems every time he described rock formations, I just wanted to throw the book. Like, that's where I got to. So here's the thing: if you're into hyperrealism, man, it's great. It's a great trilogy about colonizing Mars because it doesn't take any easy routes. It takes a long time, and is very boring. And that's probably what terraforming Mars would be like. Colonizing and terraforming Mars would take generations and be horribly boring and fraught with problems that are not all that dramatic. But here's the thing: do I want to read that in a novel? Me personally, I didn't. I didn't want to read that. You might, and if you do, that's the book for you. Now, those things being said, when we come back, 5 best with an honorable mention. I'll see you for that. Bye, everybody.